I'm so fly.
All right. This is a weird moment for me because this isn't something that I ever thought I'd actually do. It's something I thought about. It's something that I created in my head. And I thought of different versions of it, what it would look like, where it would take place. But here we are. So until I come up with something better, you're locked into the Two Fly podcast, brought to you by Two Fly Entertainment. So if you're here, it's probably because you know me. And if by chance you ended up here strictly out of curiosity, then allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jake Thomson. At the time of recording this, I am 28 years young, from Toronto, Ontario. Born and raised in a little city outside Toronto called Oshawa, but I've been in Etobicoke now for 10 years. So this is home. This is home for me. And why Two Fly? So if you follow me on Instagram or any social media already, then you know I go by Jake Two Fly. That I will not lie to you. The story behind that is not as cool as I wish it was. I wanted a unique Instagram name. I wanted something that only I had, something that I could be identified with. So I went with Two Fly, spelt Jake, the number 2, FLI. I wanted it to be different. I just wanted to be me. I wanted to make sure that, it wasn't like a Jake 1, a Jake 2, Jake underscore 3, something crazy. Changed my Instagram name and just kind of moved on. I didn't really care. But then friends started referring to me as Two Fly outside of that context. Yo, Two Fly. What's up, Two Fly? Yo, is Two Fly coming to the function? Things like that. And I'm not going to lie to you. I liked the way it sounded. I thought that sounded cool. I was cool with it. And people knew me for it. People still know me for it. So I just kind of rolled with it, owned it. And I guess I've now made it my own. So that brings us to Two Fly Entertainment. It's something that I've put together because originally I was going to go with Two Fly Productions when I was starting to venture more into videography. I realized I love videography, but not sure I want to make a whole career out of it. But still want to do it. And then I thought about it and I'm like, well, the main thing I'm known for is my voice. And then within that, I do so much. So much, which I'm about to get into in a second. I don't think it's just productions that I do. I entertain. I lend myself to entertainment, whether that's through sports, through, more corporate functions, more casual functions, party environments. I've done a lot. I've covered a lot. So, yeah. And I guess what I'm known for, and when I say I use my voice, I don't know if you can hear the airplanes. I got my window open. I live close to the airport, and I like having my window open. I like the sounds of outside. I like the natural air. But when I say I use my voice, I'm a PA announcer. Essentially, for those who don't know what that is, PA standing for public address. When you walk into an arena at a sports event of some kind, a game, the voice that you hear in the arena, but more often than not, you can't really associate with a person, a body. It is just kind of a VOG, voice of God. That's what I do. With that, I also host and MC events, voiceovers, but I think PA is probably what most people know me for. And I just kind of came to the decision that I do too much with my voice, and I have a very unique perspective on how I use my voice. And so I felt this was necessary. And I fought it for a long time. I thought this was an oversaturated market, but I kind of came to the realization that no one is the originator, no one has agency over this industry, being podcasting. And so, what's to stop me? And if you're here with me, I deeply appreciate it. So what I want to talk about, I guess, is my journey, where my voice has taken me, some of the things I've accomplished, some of the things I want to accomplish, my views on these goals and these experiences of past. And hopefully I can provide somewhat of a template, maybe a blueprint for somebody who looks to follow it. Maybe I can relate to somebody who's going through a similar journey and, like myself, doesn't have it all figured out. Or maybe you just find this entertaining. And either way, I do not fault you. And I welcome you. And I hope you get to know me a little bit through this. I'm always open. I love making friends and knowing people. So I'm never opposed to that. So where did I start using my voice? Well, I attended Humber College. I was very heavily involved in the athletics department. I was a student athlete. I worked in the department. I volunteered in the department. I interned in the department. Even years after graduating, I would go back as an alumni. Sometimes they'd hire me out to do games. When I went back for a second diploma, during which time I didn't have any athletic eligibility left, I still got involved in athletics because I knew it would be a good way to improve my professional resume, but also keep me in my industry, being sports and sports communications. So my first go around at Humber, I started working on game days for what we called the Student Athletic Association, the SAA. I did a mix of things, just promoting, telling people about our different athletics events. Come on out. It'll be fun. We're giving out popcorn. We're giving out Hawks gear, all this stuff. And it was cool. And then I remember our MC at the time, Cassandra Gagliardi, had to miss a game. And she held down the MC position for a couple years, even before I got there. Or at least a year. A reasonable enough amount of time. And she looked at me and kind of jokingly said, "Well, Jake, you have the personality. You should pick up the microphone and fill in for me. I'll put in a word with Jamie and Eric, our supervisors. And yeah, let's do this. You do it. Do it. Have fun. It'll be great." And I won't lie, I was never a kid who was afraid of spotlight from an early age. I was the 8th grade, graduating, going into high school, valedictorian for my class. I was a theater kid throughout high school. And even outside of traditional entertainment, as an athlete, was a long distance runner, and I always had almost always, well, maybe not always, but almost always had my best performances during the championship races. Um, so I think spotlight has just always been something that's been innate to me. So she misses the game, and I pick up the microphone. I have some fun. I don't know to this day what my thought process was, but all I know is I picked up a microphone, and then there was a voice that naturally came from me. There was no effort, there was no strain. I just felt this voice made sense. And so I pick up the microphone and I say, "Good evening and welcome to the Humber Athletic Center." And I use that and I go on and on and on, doing my different hits. I managed the halftime games and communicated with the audience, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun. And I'll never forget, so I was emceeing, or hosting as we call it in the industry. And across the gym was the PA announcer, Dwayne Bowles, who also managed operations on game days. And during a stoppage of play, in between quarters, sets, whatever it was, he walks across the gym right towards me. To this point, we had hardly ever spoken, barely shared words. He comes towards me with this walk. I thought I was in trouble. He also just kind of has that way about him. Bless his heart. I love you, Dwayne. I thought I was in trouble. He comes up to me and he leans in and he goes, "You're really fucking good. You sound fucking good. Keep going. Keep doing this. And tell you what, if you're interested, I can train you up, teach you, and you can do PA, the in-game. I have too much on my plate anyway. I have a lot to manage. I'd rather you take over and do it, if you're interested." He made it very clear that it was just if I was interested. And so a few more games go by, and I just kind of brushed it off. At this point, it's a regular rotation between me and Cassandra, which is awesome. We're both loving it. So time goes by. Eventually, I want to say actually it was a lot more than a couple games. I want to say it was maybe a year, about a year, until I finally said, "Okay, let me give this a try." Took him up on his offer. Sat down with him. He ran me through how he thought I should go about it. Let me know to do the minimum. We did a preseason, not a preseason, but an exhibition basketball game sometime in like January, something like that. And he had like a pre-written script with blanks and whatnot and prompts, and I did it, and it was fun. I immediately felt the pressure though of how do I make my voice different from his? How do I make the way I approach it different from his? He has a very distinct Dwayne. He almost goes high pitched, I want to say, higher than his natural speaking voice for sure, but not like helium. But and he has this iconic that everybody loved, this thing where you go and you're Humber, and he'd hold that forever. Hawks. And I can't do it like he does, so that voice is definitely an exaggeration or a very poor imitation, whatever you want to call it. So immediately I'm going into it, and I'm like, how do I make it different? And I'm feeling that pressure, because that's iconic. You can't just straight up jack someone's like iconic like thing like that, you know what I'm saying? So, and again, it came naturally to me. I didn't force this. I didn't even sleep on it. I was halfway through my sentence before I thought about it. How was I going to say Humber Hawks? And you're Humber Hawks. I did a little deep voice growl thing. And I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I remember a friend who was at the score table with me recorded it because he was excited for me that I was getting the chance to do something different. So I did it. He recorded it, and I looked at it after. I think he posted it on like his Snapchat story, or he sent it to me. I forget, but I saw it somewhere. And I didn't know how I felt about it. As I've learned, I thought it was just in that moment, but as I've gone on, I am definitely my biggest critic, as I'm sure most of us are towards ourselves. And it was so weird. I was like, do I like that? Do I want to change it? I don't know. At this point, I was thinking about it, but I couldn't come up with anything. I'm talking to myself all throughout the apartment, all night, all day. I'm recording myself when I'm in private and listening back, and I can't find something that I love. So then the next few games come, and I just keep doing it. I just keep doing it, 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 keep doing it. And I want to say it was about 2 years later. So that I went on, did multiple games. We hosted championships. I started to expand into different sports. I did basketball, volleyball, uh, softball, baseball. Um, I would do banquets. That was nerve wracking. Banquets were nerve wracking. Because that was like in a game setting, you could, like I said, you can blend in and just be a VOG. But when you're up at that podium in the banquet hall, everyone's looking at you. And so that is nerve wracking. But uh, as far as making my own voice and making my voice the voice of the Hawks, I want to say it was about 2 years later when a friend uh, who was the manager of the men's basketball team at the time, he was talking about game day, how he was hyped up. There was a small group of us between athletes and athletic staff. We were all just a family. So I couldn't even tell you who else was in that little circle that was talking. And he was talking about game day. He was getting hyped up, and he's a very animated person. He's always moving. He's always, doing voices, and he's like just having some fun. And he did an imitation of me, not consciously, and not to me or at me, just in general. He was talking about game day, and he was so excited. It was gonna be a big game for the Umber Hawks. Like, and he held that. He did the little growl, and that's why I was like, oh, that was me. That was me. He just did, and he immediately realized he did it, and looked at me, and just kind of laughed. I was like, dude, the way you do it is perfect. I love it. Yeah, man, it gets me hyped up every time, gives me chills. And I'm like, damn, that's my voice. My voice did that. And I just, damn, yeah. And that blew my mind. That it was such a small moment that I don't even think he remembers. That I know for sure no one else standing in that little group of us that were chatting, none of them remember. But I recall that moment very well. I was like, fuck, I did that. Yeah, I am the voice of the Hawks. And that's kind of when I knew it was time. I need to look further. Can I go beyond the OCAA and CCAA? And so I started looking at other opportunities. I went on to announce for U of T, which was an eye-opening experience because they have a roster of game day talent across multiple sports. And so, despite the fact that I was doing it for the biggest college in the country, for one of the most reputable athletics programs, college or university in the country, it didn't matter. They had their people, and they were going to stick with them. And the new kid was going to get the scraps. And that's what I got. I got the games no one else wanted to do, the tournaments no one else wanted to do. I did hockey games for a very poor team, poor teams. I did some volleyball games for, again, teams that were not doing much of anything. I got stuck on swimming tournaments. And it's not to disparage any of these athletes or these sports, these disciplines, in the context of University of Toronto and the multiple events they have going on and the multiple events that were ongoing throughout the OUA. I was getting pretty bottom barrel stuff. And that was eye-opening because I went from, a place where they didn't have a script written out for me. They didn't even have cues. They just said, okay, we'll sit back. When Jake says this, then we go. When Jake does this, we go. And my voice kind of was the coordination for everybody to suddenly, hey, it's follow this script or you are fired. Follow this script the way we have it written when I tell you. Otherwise, we don't need you. But I kept going because I, at this point, was hooked. I found something that I loved. I found a way to use my ability to entertain that I had left behind, that I thought I had left behind, and combine that with my love of sports. And so time goes on. I've done Humber, U of T, Ryerson, now known as Toronto Metropolitan, TMU. I've done events for Athletics Ontario. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going well. This is going well. I like this. I'm doing multiple sports, multiple disciplines, banquets. At this point, I had done multiple provincial banquets and department banquets, and was just having a blast through it all. Made plenty of mistakes that I'm sure I'll get into another time. I made plenty of mistakes. And now I've gotten to do a professional team. The Mississauga Metro Stars, some indoor soccer pro league that I didn't know existed. But I got to do that. I graduated. Well, actually, sorry. Let me back up before I get to that. So, so eventually I learned that there is a lineage of announcing at Humber. The Toronto Raptors PA announcer, Herbie Kuhn, who was an icon, a legend, is an icon and a legend. What am I talking? But I say was simply because he was just this figurehead to me. Someone that could be seen but not approached, not touched. and now I'm lucky enough to call him a friend. Herbie Kuhn has been doing Raptors games since their inception in 1995. I guess their inception was 94, but their first game was 95. And he's been doing it ever since. Still is doing it now in 2023. And he has a blast with it. And he's an industry legend for a reason. And I could go on about just how dope it is that he's done the things he's done. And has created the name for himself that he has. There's also someone who not many people will know about, Ari Zanarios. Ari also went to Humber, like myself and Herbie. He was between Herbie and I as far as age and when he attended. Ari went on to voice Toronto Football Club, TFC, and the Raptors 905, which was brought about 2015, 2016. I want to say 2015, I believe it was. Which was the then D League, now G League affiliate of the Toronto Raptors. For anyone who's wondering, essentially the G League is the developmental league for the NBA, the NBA G League. It's probably the closest leg of the pipeline to the league that players can get to. A lot of guys will play in the CEBL, CBL, NBL. Oh my gosh, all these different leagues. They'll play overseas. But the G League is as close as you can possibly get, because at that point, the team that you're playing for is affiliated with an NBA team. So not only does that team, but other scouts and coaches from around the league, from multiple other teams, now have eyes on you and everything you're doing, as if they didn't already. And so Ari voiced them. And so that was kind of cool that two Humber voices are at this point now the voices of basketball in Canada, or the highest level of basketball in Canada. And Ari, being a little younger and knowing a few more faces who were still around Humber, people who were players when he was announcing were now coaches, comes by to a game one day to just say hi to these old faces. I want to say it was a volleyball game he came to. Said hi to some people. And then Jim Bilek of Humber College, I'll never forget that this was all Jim's doing. Jimmy pulls Ari over towards me, pulls me over towards him, and says, "Hey, old announcer, this is new announcer. New announcer, this is old announcer. You guys are now friends." And yeah, it really was that simple. We chatted briefly. Got to know each other a little bit, what we do, what we've done, what he asked, obviously what I'm looking to do. At that point, it was pretty wide open. I can't even tell you what answer I gave him because I was a stupid kid. And it was cool. I let him announce the starting lineup just as a rather than doing a homage, just hand him the mic. You know, he did the starting lineup, and then I went and did the game. Afterwards, we chatted and kind of joked around. Something I thought was cool was him saying to me that, I respect your voice because it's your voice. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I didn't fully get it. And he just says, well, I just do an impression of the Duff Man from The Simpsons. And I thought I knew who he was talking about, but then later on I was curious, so I YouTubed it. And yeah, that's the exact same voice. So now, Ari, I don't know if by chance you're hearing this, seeing this, dog, you at the very least you're a killer impressionist. Some time passes, and so Ari's heard me. He knows that I'm legit, or legit enough. At the time, obviously gotten a lot better. He knows I'm legit, and I take it seriously. And so the 905 are hosting the G League Showcase. It's a 2-court system. He can only do 1 court. So they call me up. He gets my contact information. We get in touch. Long story short, I went and did the alternate court at the showcase. And it was incredible. Because I'm like, yo, I'm doing professional basketball. Not semi-pro, not college. This is professional basketball. Couldn't even tell you what teams I did, but I got to do a game with Anthony Bennett. That was wild to me. That's a star. That's a name that people know. And there I am. And it was, let me just unplug this charger, because this bad boy will overheat. And so it's one of the most surreal things ever. But I had fun. I thought, okay, this was cool. This was, a foot in the door. And then I didn't think much about it. A month or two later, the game presentation specialist for the 905, Josh Rosenweig. You know what? I always called him Josh Rosen, so that's what we're going to call him. So Josh gives me a call personally and says, hey, heard a lot of good things about what you did on the court, the alternate court at Showcase. That's awesome. Ari has to miss a game. Are you comfortable coming in and covering? Yes. So just like that, I went and I was about to do a game for the Raptors 905. And again, I couldn't believe it. It was surreal. And it all just like zoomed by. I don't remember what or how. I just remember Ubering there, getting my temporary credentials. And I walked in, I met the mascot, I got my script, a thick script. And I was like, yo. We get to the game, I do all the pregame hits, and now that's the starting lineup. So as an announcer, the starting lineup is probably the most powerful part of the entire thing, because that's when we go buck wild. Because that's when we can get the most creative. That's when we have most fans screaming, which just energizes us even more. That's when we can get the loudest, just do the most. So I hear that the track breaks down, my cue to come in, and I'm reading the script, almost like line for line, word for word, because I'm nervous as all hell. I do not want to mess this up. Saga City! Yo. Get on your feet. It's time to meet the starters for your Raptors 905. Yeah. like, yo, this is me doing this right now. It's me. Like, it's me doing this. And man, I want to say that season I covered three games. Because I covered that one game, one right before playoffs, and then one playoff game for Ari. He had a full-time job, as well as was doing TFC, which at that time was just starting to get underway. Oh man, wow, bro. It Yeah, and I just assumed because Ari was so young, I had met him, so I knew his age. I knew that he was grinding. I'm like, okay, I have a better chance at Raptors than I do at 905 because he's young. He's gonna be in this for a while, and so I'm happy with it. I'm satisfied. I'm ready to move on. And a few months later, I get a call, um, call or an email. I forget. It's been a while. It's been 5 years. Give me a break. Um, I get a notification of some sort that Ari has decided to move on, and I was the call. Would you like to come in and be the new voice of the Raptors 905? I could not have said yes any quicker, especially being that I had just left. I had just graduated. I just finished school. At the time, what I thought was forever. So I had just entered the, what we call the quote unquote the adult world. And oh my gosh. And now I'm a voice of MLSE. I'm the voice of the Raptors 905. The only affiliate of the only NBA team north of the border. I could not believe it. And I immediately called my mom and told her. I was like, yo, you would not guess what just fucking happened. Yeah. Yeah. Just damn. So we get the deal done. And then I get another email later on saying, hey, Duke University is going to be doing a tour of Canada. They said a tour of Canada, but they had two stops. It was Toronto and Montreal. But, for these American kids, it was a Canada-wide tour. But during their Toronto stop, they'll be playing at what was the Hershey Center, and then was renamed to the Paramount Fine Foods Center. They'll be playing at Paramount against U of T and Ryerson, which is now known as TMU. As you are the basketball announcer for that house, would you be interested in calling these games? What? Duke University? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that was another crazy experience. I like to, every now and then, I don't brag about my career, but one thing that kind of feels like a brag for me is the first time ever that RJ Barrett, that Cam Reddish, that Zion Williamson, the star who we all know and love. First time these guys ever put on and played in their Duke basketball uniforms was a game that I called. Their first two times were games that I called. At 23 years old, I wouldn't even say that I was at a point where I thought I made it, but I knew I wasn't at the starting spot anymore. I knew that I had left home. you know? You know what I mean? My mind was so boggled. I couldn't think, okay, I need to do better, but I also couldn't think, all right, mission accomplished. Because my head was just spinning. I didn't know what to make of it. But it was incredible. Incredible games, incredible athleticism, incredible basketball. And it was even more satisfying to not tell anybody and to call those games. And then some friends just are in the audience and look down at the score table and like, I know him. Some people up in the audience who hear the voice and then text me, is this you? Are you doing this right now? And man, what a time. It was also the days, I guess, when I got to officially meet a soon to be colleague and now a dear, dear friend in Mariah Amber, who hosted those games and went on to host for the 905 and is now hosting for the Raptors on top of the choreography that she does for the Saga City Dancers and the captaining that she does for the Northside crew. Is she a captain? Forget her role. She's in some leadership role. She's doing so much, I can't keep track. Mariah, you're incredible. Uh-huh. And so we fast forward the start of the season, the G League season, and it's incredible. It is everything that I wanted it to be and more. Everything felt so professional, and anything that was duct taped together still shined as if it was gold. Because I was on that high. I was loving it. And now here we are, me about to go into my sixth season with the team. And I can honestly say it feels like home now. And I can't picture myself anywhere else. And I hope one of these days I can call a Raptors game as well. But Herbie is an Iron Man and doesn't miss games. But to that point, I always tell everyone, because they'll always be like, when are you Raptors? When are you Raptors? When are you Raptors? Raptors, Raptors, Raptors. I'm like, hey, babe, I'm with the Raptors. Just not at Scotiabank Arena. And that's okay. I love this team so much, and it has become so much of a home that I could never do the Raptors, and I would be satisfied with where this path has taken me and with how much respect MLSE has given me. and all the management, old and new, has given me, and how they've treated me like family since day one. How they've treated my family like family since day one. And at this point now, all I can think about is what's next. As a human, as a young adult who's working in a hustling, bustling city, I guess I have to think about what's next. And that brings us to here. At the almost 50-minute mark on what is my first ever podcast. So what is next? Well, I'll elaborate on this at a later time, but I left a full-time job. I have left behind a lot of very comfortable things in the interest of using my voice full-time. This is no longer one of my jobs. This is no longer a part-time job. This is no longer something that I'm trying out. This is what I want to do. I want to use my voice in arenas, at events, in banquet halls, in your ears right now as you listen to this on Spotify. I want to use my voice, my personality, my presence. These are all gifts that I know I have and that I've sat on for a long time and that I've used and loved. But I always put them on the back burner for some reason. For some reason, I could never prioritize it because of the scary reality that not everyone can make it doing that. But if I love it, why wouldn't I? If I love it, then why wouldn't I? And this isn't meant to be an inspirational podcast. This isn't, well, to be honest, this isn't meant to be anything. I don't want to be genred with this. I want to just talk, and whoever resonates will resonate, and we'll let it be. But I love getting to use my voice through games and through all the multiple other events that I've done that I can't wait to tell you all about. And every day I think of new ways I can use my voice and new ventures. And I can't wait to share those with you. And maybe we can get to a point where I even have some company, some friends, and we discuss some of these ventures and how they coincide with them and their creative ventures or corporate ventures, because we never know. But until then, until we can figure out for sure how to get to that next step and where the next steps lie with this podcast, then stay locked in, stay creative, keep having fun. To fly out.